Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about exorbitant privilege. This economic term refers to the benefit enjoyed by a country whose currency is a world dominant currency, or in another term is world reserve currency. How a country's currency could become a world reserve currency? Historically, a country that is a largest creditor to the world and the largest manufacturer of the world becomes the world reserve currency. Its currency becomes the world reserve currency. And as you know, after World War II, the US was the largest manufacturer of the world and also was the largest creditor to the whole world. That's why US dollar became the world reserve currency. So when a country holds the world reserve currency, enjoy exorbitant privilege. And this exorbitant privilege manifests itself in 4 different ways. First, in international transactions. Around 61% of all trade transactions around the world is done by US dollar. And this means that there is an ongoing demand for US dollar in the world market for countries to be able to trade with each other. And this first benefit comes when by printing US dollar and distributing it to the whole world, the US export inflation to the whole world. And all these printed dollars would not stay inside the US to create mega inflation. Exported to the whole world, and the inflation remains low in the US. Of course, when you have such a power, this printing and sending this US dollar to the all countries that need those for their trading is kind of asset of your country. So these US dollars were considered as asset of the US that printing and sending it abroad. But as we go forward with the world economy, and the US is not the largest manufacturer of the world and is not the largest creditor of the world, all these dollars that printed and sent out to the to other countries in order to be used, all those assets now become liability. Meaning at some point, more and more countries don't need US dollar for their transactions. So the demand for US dollars is gonna decrease over time, and this dollar come back to the US and create more inflation inside America. That's why you see we are at the beginning of that process. That's why you see there is some consistent inflation in the past few years in the US. Of course, some of it is because of the Corona, and all those money was printed after the Corona pandemic hit the whole world. But some part of it is because demand for US dollar for international transaction is decreasing around the world. The second benefit is lower borrowing cost. As the US become the net importer of goods, it needs to borrow money from other countries to import its goods, necessary goods and products it needs from other country. And it could do that through issuing bonds, and because other countries trust US dollars, they could issue these bonds with low yield, and many people are willing to invest and buy those US bonds.
I mean, you're shipping little pieces of paper to the rest of the world, and they're shipping you goods. I mean, people are working, making underwear or shoes someplace, and they get little pieces of paper from us. And it gets very tempting if you've done that enough to make sure that those little pieces of paper aren't worth very much over time when they want to cash them for something. So you don't want to have, we don't have any problem running trade deficits, but if we ran really large ones and we sort of worked ourselves into a box where we didn't really have a solution to get the numbers down, it could be a problem. And I wrote about it one time, but it's kind of a nice thing, actually. Just, I mean, wouldn't you like to have something where you just send out little pieces of paper and somebody keep supplying you with your food or your,
I'm living it.
You're yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
This concept is when you spend like few cents to print $100 bill and then send it to other countries, and they need to work hard to make $100 equivalent of product and send it back to the US. So that is a seigniorage benefit of having the world reserve currency. And the last benefit is flexibility in a time of crisis. When we have economic crisis, other country actually want to be risk off, and they try to hold the asset in US dollar. That's why the US dollar benefits even at the time of economic crisis and financial crisis. So these were 4 benefits that come from exorbitant privilege. There are lots of talk about that other currencies like euro or yuan renminbi of China will be the world reserve currency. But none of those currencies have capability of becoming the world reserve currency. So for the foreseeable future, the US dollar will be the world reserve currency. But the problem arises when the world reserve currency is not a benefit anymore, is not an asset of US, but a liability. When more and more countries gonna have their trade with their own local currency, and the currency of China, that is the largest manufacturer of the world, all those US dollars that are printed and distributed to the whole world, to other countries, we're gonna turn right back to US and create inflation. So the problem is not the currency of another country become a world reserve currency. The problem is being a world reserve currency is not as beneficial as before.